Welcome, everybody. Welcome from wherever you are. Welcome to another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show, the show where I bring you people with a story of triumph, a particular story, and a particular knowledge that they want to share with you to help you to go to the next level of your greatness, because that's what this show is all about, making sure that you don't feel like you can't make it, you can't reach your dream, you can't reach the highest level of greatness in your life. So I bring you those champions. I bring you those people who are going to inspire you to go to really, to the extreme and reach your self-actualization. So my guest today, we're going to the US, and we're going to talk about COVID. And, I know you all hear about COVID. It's been more than a year that we all, into it. And today I'm bringing you a survivor of COVID, somebody who's really, was in the brink of losing your life because of COVID, but managed to defeat it. And we're gonna learn about, experience going through this challenging time, but also the renew what she learned from this experience and the renewed purpose that she gained from this experience. So who is my guest today? So my guest is Maya McNulty. She's actually I think well known in the on Facebook or on the social media. She's an award-winning cable lifestyle program host, and she's been quite influential the last few years, and helping nonprofit to raise millions of dollars using fundraising secret to propel them to the to the highest level, and what she called the ninja master in the art of fundraising. So I'm not gonna extend too much. I'm gonna give Maya the opportunity to introduce herself properly, and then go through the key thing that she's been able to experience through her life, and then we'll go into the conversation about her battle with her story, a survivor story, with COVID. So don't go anywhere. Make sure you come in, you have your pen, because I think you're gonna learn a lot from her story, and you might be able to not only help somebody in your community or in your country, or just learn from her in terms of how she might learn the steps that she took to manage to go through and come out victorious. So don't go anywhere. I'll bring Maya now, and we're gonna start our conversation. So stay tuned.
But as I got older, I started to be more aware of some of the abusive sides of
welcome, Maya. Welcome to the Greatness Engineering Hour show. It's such a pleasure to have you today and to start, for those in the US to start their morning with you and talking about something that actually we all going through right now with COVID really taking over the world and limiting our movement and creating, a lot of challenges and sometimes being fatal for families and for people around the world. So just before we delve into the topic of today, just want to know, to ask you to introduce yourself, tell us who you are and what you do, and then we'll go and talk about this particular experience that you went through with surviving COVID.
Marielle, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for having me on your show, the Greatness Engineering Hour show. What a pleasure. Yes, we're here in Albany, New York. It's about 8 o'clock in the morning, so it's almost 9 o'clock at night there for you. So it's a long day. But thank you so much for investing the time in entrepreneurs and doing the show on behalf of the people in your community. It's really noble of you. And also to lift up your community when there's so much darkness happening around the world. So thank you for doing that.
Mhm, mhm.
Now, a little bit about me is pre-COVID, I have been a real go-getter for life. I've always went after everything with no grass growing under my feet. I was fast moving. I wasn't ever thinking that I couldn't do anything. Nothing was too impossible for me to reach.
Mhm.
And I wrote a few books in 2019. I've helped nonprofits raise money, lots of money, millions, using the book Fundraising Secrets. I actually got tired of repeating myself, and that's why I wrote the book Fundraising Secrets, to give them a blueprint, a guide to be able to fundraise more effectively and efficiently. So by maximizing fundraising by thinking like an entrepreneur. I also wrote another book called My Favorite Quotes for Entrepreneurs. It's an interactive guide to inspiration and empowerment. There was a time I wasn't really that entrepreneurial. I had owned a franchise, and it was a failing franchise, a failing business model called Curves for Women. They were the fastest growing Guinness Book World Record growing franchise. But the thing about that franchise, it also was the fastest growing that financially ruined many families and lives. So thinking back on all of my entrepreneurship and how I learned entrepreneurship and all that I've been doing in my life, I think that how when I got COVID, I came in contact with COVID last March of 2020, being one of the very first young females to have gotten COVID, when all of this data was saying it's just for elderly or young kids wouldn't get COVID. When I was one of the very first cases, it alarmed the White House and the President of the United States and Dr. Fauci and the global task force that this could happen to anyone. And so they started to change the dialect of COVID could happen to anyone. And as we know today, it can happen to anyone at any age, at any fitness level, of any race, color, creed. It doesn't matter. It does not discriminate. Now, I'm not lucky that I got COVID, but I am lucky that I survived. And being able to survive, I'm going with the attitude of it didn't happen to me, it happened for me. Because there were several times I lost, my lungs had collapsed 3 times. So I don't want to say that I lost my life, because I'm sitting right here talking to you. But there was hope, and I saw the other side. And I asked God, how come, I've been at your gate already. Like, how come you didn't take me? And he told me, I saw that sign, that image saying it's happening for you, not to you. So I told my pulmonologist, And he actually believed me because he's been with me since I,
Mhm.
went on the ventilator. He put my ventilator and trach on, and I was in a coma for 30 days and on a
Wow.
ventilator for 6 weeks.
Mhm.
And so he's witnessed my lungs collapse, and I always joke it's my second life, chapter 1, that I have just a different attitude every time I
Mhm.
wake up in the morning, and the things that I do, with more passion and excitement, with more
Mhm.
purpose.
Mhm.
I
Mhm.
lost my voice post COVID, about a month and a half after coming home, and I lost all my hair. My hair, I now have 4 inches of new
Yeah.
hair, so it's actually kind of bushy, but
Mhm.
I'm loving for it. So I'm happy, and these scars now, as we empower women and children and people to do what they want to find in their greatness, let it be their
Mhm.
cape. My new cape of honor is my scars that I'm a little insecure about,
Mhm.
but they're my badge of honor and my cape of success, of my
Mhm.
cape of survival,
Mhm.
my cape of being a warrior. I changed my mental attitude and my focus on what does survival look like to me. It's almost a year now. March will be a year, and I haven't been able to drive. I went from being
Wow.
very independent to dependent to now codependent. For someone that's a type A personality, that's very hard to swallow.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so I'm learning to adjust and pivot, just like businesses when they had to go on a ventilator for survival. We've all had to when we went into quarantine. Granted,
Mhm.
I was in a coma when this was all happening, but it's no different because we were all looking for oxygen at the time.
Mhm.
And now we've learned better ways. There's lots of documents out there now than there were 10 months ago. There's lots of hope in groups, support groups. So if you feel like you're alone, I've started a support group called COVID
Mhm.
Wellness Clinic. There's a COVID Wellness Clinic page and a COVID Wellness group. And the COVID Wellness group, the difference between the two is in the group, there's actual stories and people that pour their hearts out and found a place for closure, for recovery, and for support.
Mhm.
And on the page, it's just kind of wellness tips, nothing too deep, because I wanted to provide a safe place for people to feel comfortable and that they are not alone.
Mhm.
So, my second life, chapter 1, my purpose is to help people get past this, to let them know that they're not alone, that there's support and recovery, and it's not in their head. A lot of things that happen to long haulers like myself, and the definition of a long hauler is pretty much anyone that has gone through COVID and survived, and they're just not who they were before. They have the brain fog, they
Mhm.
have headaches, PTSD, they have weird taste or loss of taste and smell. Their
Mhm.
tongue peels, their hands peels, their toes burn. They have neurological issues.
Mhm.
Right now, for me, while I'm happy and excited to be here to share my story and journey, the brain fog is like pushing and pulsating. Remembering to take your deep breaths and doing
Mhm.
your diaphragmatic breathing to help your lungs. It's going to take time to be where you want to be, but you're never going to be who you were. And it's okay. You have to accept that.
Mhm. Mhm. Mhm.
I'm still going through therapy, which I have some of the best therapists. And they're not just therapists, they're pulmonary therapists. They say that how COVID affects the mind, the brain, the heart, the lungs, the skin. It does, the kidneys, the GI. It's every single part of your body. So if you're feeling that you have been affected somewhere, it is true. You are not imagining it. It
Mhm.
definitely is happening. And doctors don't know. And I often question, and being the devil advocate that I am, how do you know? When they say to me that my antibodies are going to last 90 days to 100
Mm-hmm.
days, I say, how do you know? It's never been done before.
Mm-hmm.
I've recently had my blood panel done in January for my annual blood test, and everything came back fine, but
Mm-hmm.
I'm 10 months positive antibodies. So the science behind it being 100 to 90 days
Mm-hmm.
is not fact for everyone.
No.
Perhaps it's fact for someone that had a less severe case or more of a case like I did, being in a coma and a more longer 69 days in the hospital.
Mm-hmm.
Who knows? We don't know. This is something completely different, and there's not enough science and research. Whether it be now or 10 years from now, just the human body just reacts differently to things. And perhaps a vaccine will be good, maybe it'll be bad, maybe it'll be something that's just temporary and you need a booster every year, just like a flu shot.
Mm-hmm.
This is something foreign, and there's a lot of science that needs to be done still, but we're making great headway. And I believe in the science, I
Mm-hmm.
believe in the experts. I believe, I'm not a neurosurgeon, I'm not a doctor. I do have to listen to them.
Mm-hmm.
However, I don't have to follow their rules and guidelines every time I'm told something to jump. For example, I've been giving bad business advice before. I've
Mm-hmm.
been given bad tax advice before. I've been given bad medical advice before. So you have to know your body. You have to know
Mm-hmm.
what's important to you and the way you were and how you want to be. Honestly, it's a mindset.
Mm-hmm.
Just like building relationships, building your mind, you have to build that relationship with your mind and have that deeper connection, whether that be through meditation, getting plenty of rest and hydration, whether that be trying to read books without the brain fog,
Mm-hmm.
or reading subtitles on the TV so that you can start to remember how to spell words.
Wow.
Simple words like the or east. I was on the hospital 3 East. That was my floor. I couldn't
Wow.
remember how to spell the word East. I said to my husband, am I spelling this correctly? Now, I'm not saying that I'm like this novice speller, spelling bee
Mm-hmm.
contest,
Mm-hmm.
but simple words. My body and mind is not able to remember sometimes. So, to counter that, I've been just putting the TV on subtitles to
Mm-hmm.
be able to read out loud and also to help me get my voice back. These are little remedies that you could do at home
Mm-hmm.
so that you don't need to go to a voice pathologist like I did for the past 8 months to help me to eat, to talk, to walk. Just yesterday, I had my nose is a little sore.
Mm-hmm.
I get probed up my nose with a camera so that they could see my throat and my larynx and my vocals, my vagus nerves. They've healed really well. There's no
Mm.
damage from the trach and the ventilator. Amen.
That's
But
fantastic. Yeah.
thank you. But
Mm-hmm.
they're not sure why my vocals compressed. They didn't collapse. They compressed. And so again, science. Follow the science. And the best way for you to uncompress your vocals is by using your vocals.
Mm-hmm.
Is by exercising and doing blowing exercises via with a straw or diaphragmatic breathing or by talking.
Mm-hmm.
And so these are little tips that you can do. If I may offer some of the things that I did to help my recovery, would that be okay if I could share a couple things?
Yeah, just share. And I think that's the objective is, given the experience that you went through, what are the things that you would recommend and to help, another person or another group of people actually going through the same experience right now.
Okay, super. Well, I'm going to share these 5 things with you,
Mm-hmm.
and they happen to help me. And I feel that if you can write them down, you'll find benefit, because if you forget, you can always go back.
Mm-hmm.
The number one thing that you should do, whether it be any type of sickness, is getting plenty of rest.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things that I struggled with a type A personality is just
Mm-hmm.
calming down and getting plenty of rest to like pause
Mm-hmm.
everything. It's very hard to rest and to turn your mind off, but trying to rest and turn your mind off, getting plenty of rest will heal you quicker and propel you forward if you just focus on trying to calm yourself. It was difficult for me, but I did it,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to do it because I have to get better. I'm told myself I will get better. So that's the one thing. The second thing I would say is join a Facebook group that there's tons of them out there. Mine is the COVID Wellness Clinic, where you can find support so that you can ask yourself, should I take these vitamins? We're not there to tell you to take vitamins or CBD
Mm-hmm.
oils or what type of exercise, but you can see what's working for other people. So join a Facebook group, and then you can bring that knowledge to your doctors because they don't know. They're relying on you as a patient led researcher for you to be able to share what's happening with you. So join a Facebook group for support, and also be active in the Facebook group. Tell your
Mm-hmm.
story. Your story is unique, and your story is different than mine, and it's going to be different than Marielle's, and it's going to be different than Susie and John and everyone else in the group. Okay? The third thing that helped me was documenting my journey. As I laid in my hospital bed, there were times I couldn't hold the pen or the pencil or the Sharpie to ask what I wanted because I didn't have a voice.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, I had lost all my hair, and I had to learn to walk all over again. I was being tube fed. So I was able to document my progress
Mm-hmm.
in how, and my first meal, chicken wings and pizza, my favorite. I was able to document when my hair loss happened and my voice loss, but then triumph and be like the day I went to the salon, how I cried that I had my first few inches of new hair,
Mm-hmm.
that the treatments were working. Documenting your journey shows how far you've come, not where you've left. So it's so important to document your journey. The fourth thing I would say is we are eager to get back to who we once were. We're those people that don't want to let any grass grow under our feet. So I would say the number four thing is do not overdo it. Because if you overdo it, just like in physical therapy, just because you can doesn't mean you should.
Mm-hmm.
That is a large lesson I've learned. It's like I want to learn to drive again. I can drive, but I have neuropathy and my body convulses when it wants to. I can't control that because I have nerve damage.
Mm-hmm.
So, for the safety of others, I won't get behind the wheel just yet until the doctor says it's okay or my therapist says it's okay. But I don't want to overdo it because it might set me back further. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
about wanting to be in the progress of everything. And then the last thing is communication.
Mm-hmm.
We have to learn to be able to communicate exactly what it is that we're feeling without feeling intimidated, without feeling that we've done something wrong, without feeling that we've hurt someone. We have to be able to communicate what we're feeling.
Mm-hmm.
If the medicine isn't working, you have to be able to communicate that. If your lungs aren't healing, you have to be able to communicate. If you're having a bad relationship at home or mental illness, you have to be able to communicate because there is help out there, but no one
Mm-hmm.
will know until you start asking. And I could probably throw this one in number 6 as a bonus would be ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
When
That's a good
I,
one.
when I was when I was pre-COVID, I never really asked for help. And now I ask for help. I ask others, are they okay? I say, are you okay? And then I say, accept the help.
Mm-hmm.
So those are so many pivotal things that I've learned, that I don't have to be in control of my control all the time.
Mm-hmm.
That
Mm-hmm.
asking for help is okay, and it's not something that depletes me.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
those are some of the lessons I've learned in the past 10 months being home. Well, I've been home for 8 months, but 10 months since this happened to me in March. And
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I
Mm-hmm.
don't say that it's a crutch. I just say it's something that is propelling me to something greater.
Mm-hmm.
My purpose, being on purpose, and looking at life differently. I definitely have a different perspective on life, and I look at it differently.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's a gift. Life is a gift. And if there's someone out there that you haven't talked to, that you want to talk to, reach out to them, pick up the phone, send a text, ask, are you okay? Ask, how can I help you?
Mm-hmm.
Be that person. Be that person. You don't have to be a hero for everyone. You don't have to be a warrior, but you can be kind. You can extend a hand. It's important to know that you matter, other people matter, and lifting others up is just an act of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
So that's my word of wisdom.
Yeah, that's really powerful, and and when I listen to you, we just realized that COVID came to teach us, some great lesson, humanity lesson, and like you said, we have to listen. It came for us, and we have to see it that way. And because going through all of this, you realize that there are a lot of things that we take for granted, and we just overlook it until COVID come and remind you. You know what? You take this for granted, but you can be in a very fragile position. So start to value it. Start to really open up. Start to think. Have a purpose. Start to take life as a gift instead of taking it for granted, and focusing on things that are not actually that important, and that's very powerful. So we're gonna have a break, and then we'll come back and continue this very powerful conversation,
Thank
and
you.
and really delve deep into how you manage to come to victory, not only during the pandemic, and then you've just shared as well the different things that actually help you. So we'll come back and talk about this a little bit more in detail. So for those
Awesome. I
listening,
look
don't
forward to
go
it.
anywhere, and we're just taking a small break, and we'll be back after that.
If you're recovering from COVID-19, then you might be anxious to know if your recovery is normal. With such a new virus, there's a lot yet to discover. But we do know what others have experienced, like difficulty climbing the stairs, keeping a brisk walk, or keeping pace with other activities they used to enjoy. Whatever stage you're at, the good news is that there's a great deal you can do to help your body recover. Hint, it's not resting all day. Rest is crucial, but too much and you'll slow your recovery and lose muscle mass, increasing your risk of injury. Instead, physios recommend exercising little and often, and just aim to do a little better each time. For example, if you're right at the beginning of your recovery, grab a chair and practice sit-to-stand exercises, or take the stairs each step at a time, literally. Then, as your confidence grows, gently work your way towards something a bit more challenging. It's easy to lose track of your progress, so keep a record. And remember, if you're worried things just don't feel right, be sure to discuss your concerns with your physiotherapist or GP. Your body has been through an ordeal, and it's going to take time to get back to what you were. To learn more about how to help your recovery, click the link.
So we are back. We were back with Maya, and we are being inspired. And really, she's been, you know, telling us, how she feels and how, she's battling every single day to get to a level, a level of health that she can be satisfied with. But what I love, in everything that she shared is, she basically uh, stress out again. It's about the mindset. It's really about the mindset, having the right mindset and taking the right step and taking baby steps, because we live in a world where we want things to happen quickly, but unfortunately we have to take baby step and really be grateful for those small steps that we are taking. So Maya, I'm going to bring you a little bit back and ask you, do you know how you actually contracted COVID, and what was your thinking process going through this journey from being in the ventilator to the time that you left the hospital? It must have been quite amazing in terms of thinking and emotion. And so how can you describe a little bit of this experience?
Thank you. That's a great question. And that's a question that a lot of people have asked. And I work from home, and it was the top of the new year. And I had committed myself to getting healthy in 2020. Like most people, it's either finances or getting healthy, right? Get your finances in gear or get healthy. So my big one was to get healthier. And I joined the gym on January 17th, which was my birthday. And I started to go to the gym. And this particular day in March, I decided that I was going to change things up that day. It was Friday, March 13th. And there wasn't any fact checked at the time or checking of, trace checking where COVID came from at the time. In March last year, because it was just at the top of the pandemic. And I, in fact, even had to Google what a pandemic was, because I've never lived through one, like most of us.
Exactly.
So
Yeah,
I knew
most
what an
of us.
epidemic was, but I wasn't sure what a pandemic was. So I had to actually Google it. And I remember when I went to the gym that particular day, the guy at the front desk is really cute. So I always say hello to him and stop. And I said with a flirty voice, I'm going to change it up today. And that's the only reason I remember why and how and when, because I had a dialogue that day. And he said to me, what are you going to do? And I said, well, I'm going to work on my arms. I'm going to treat myself to the sauna, and I'm going to do the massage chair because my neck was bothering me. So when I went into that sauna that particular day, there was no one around me. There was no one around me during the gym too, because being self-employed, I can go anytime and not when the traffic is. So I believe I caught it from a surface. And I believe when I went into the sauna, it was just either in the sauna already, or it just was a Peachtree dish waiting for me, and it just attacked me. I recall when I was leaving the gym how I felt. I felt very lightheaded. I felt not there 100%. My head was like it was in a cloud kind of. And I got home, I drove home, and I said to my husband, I don't feel well. And I said, he was outside mowing the lawn in March. Yes, he mows the lawn in March. It was actually a very mild winter last year in March. And I said to him, I'm going to go lay down. And come Saturday, I did not feel well. And so I drove myself to the emergency room because I did not feel well. I felt dehydrated. I felt body chills, nausea, vomit.
Mm-hmm.
And they did not test people at this time for COVID because it just wasn't a thing.
Mm-hmm.
They tested me for pneumonia, and I didn't have pneumonia. And there was clearly something wrong because my fever, and they
Mm-hmm.
gave me 2 bags of IV. So they said to me, "We're going to test you for COVID. We'll come Monday morning. The Department of Health, 7 o'clock in the morning, called." And they called my doctor's office saying I did test positive for COVID. But by Wednesday, I was dying of respiratory failure, not knowing. So my husband
Mm-hmm.
had to carry me out from the upstairs bedroom because I had started to lose, I was dying from my feet up,
Mm-hmm.
and I wasn't able to walk. So my husband had to carry me down the steps on his back into the car and then to the
Mm-hmm.
emergency room. So March 21st, I went into the hospital, and I never came out until May 28th. And in that period of time, my husband was told several times to get our daughter from college because remote learning hadn't really happened yet. They just was
Mm-hmm.
starting to be the height, in New York was the epicenter.
Mm-hmm.
My daughter had to fly home emergency to come say goodbye to her mother.
Mm.
And when I heard that, I didn't really realize or know what was happening because I was in a coma. I didn't know
Mm-hmm.
what was happening in the inside world. At the outside world. I didn't know that there were refrigerator trucks, more refrigerator trucks of bodies. I
Mm-hmm.
didn't know that 700 people were dying a day. I didn't know that the doctors were fighting to save my life, and every single doctor at Ellis Hospital in Schenectady, New York, was on the team to find out how a young female, because again, this was for elderly
Mm-hmm.
and not children and young people. The White House and the governor did call the hospital, and they did allow me to take the drug remdesivir,
Mm-hmm.
and that remdesivir worked. They did try the hydrochloroquine and all the other drugs, every drug that my husband had to keep signing papers in order for me to sign because they were all a test. And if I had
Mm-hmm.
passed, then he didn't care what happened as long as they saved my life.
Mm-hmm.
He just said, "I don't care what you do, it's to save my wife's life."
Wow.
And I fought and fought and fought. My daughter would send me messages. I couldn't hold anything because I was in a coma. I couldn't hear anything.
Mm-hmm.
You can't hear or dream anything when you're in a coma. But she just kept telling me, "Mom, keep fighting, keep fighting." And I just sent her off to college because she just got vaccinated,
Mm-hmm.
to still remote learning. But I want her to be able to have that experience because I think they're being robbed of being in school and that experience.
Mm-hmm.
And like, you're only going to be 20 and 21 once, right? And I
Yeah.
understand the pandemic, who knows how long it's going to last.
Mm-hmm.
But we don't want to live in a bubble. We do want to get back to normalcy, as normal as we can get it. I'm not afraid of the virus. I'm not afraid of the pandemic. I'm not afraid of the vaccine. From what I know, I'm a medical miracle. I'm a walking miracle. I believe in
Mm-hmm.
science. I believe in using drugs to get you to be healthy again. If it
Mm-hmm.
wasn't for the drugs for me, if it wasn't for the remdesivir, most Americans or even across the globe wouldn't have access to it unless it was tried on me first.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to claim that I'm blazing trails in that area, but I'm willing to try it for you,
Mm-hmm.
be the first in line to help and give forward because I believe in the science. I trust the doctors. I trust medicine. I trust science.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe that it will be ill intent when they're trying to save so many lives.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel that people have to really give it a chance. It's up to you. I'm not telling you you have to. Honestly, it's
Mm-hmm.
none of my business. I go with that attitude of it's none of my business because it clearly is none of my business.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to make something happen for yourself and get back to science and trust it, then the world will probably be a little easier to live in.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. and that's the problem we have right now, is that people doubt the science, and but they forget what science is all about. Science doesn't just give you the solution just right now. There need to be trial, there need to be information that they get from people who are sick. So there's a period where they're going to be wrong, but they still need to do that to get to the right solution. And that's what that's the debate right now, where you have people just uh, even ignoring COVID, saying that it doesn't exist and that it's rubbish and science this and that. But cases are there, and give time to science. I mean, and the fact that they lock down people is also for them to be able to have those steps, so that they can have a better understanding, instead of having people going all over the place and not really having control on how they can progress to the next level. And I think there's an awareness and education that needs to be done at all level about what science is all about, and how science works to bring the solution to those pandemics, to those health problems that are actually that we are faced with. And there's a period where they do all the trials, they try their best. And I mean, people are going to die, obviously, because they don't have the solution straight away, but they need this time before they can get to the best place where they can make sure that people are safe. So
Yeah.
that's the big challenge
I
right
agree
now.
with you on some extent. I
Mm-hmm,
believe that how you have to let the scientists do their jobs, just
mm-hmm,
like you'd have to let a brain surgeon do his job or a tax
mm-hmm,
accountant do his job.
mm-hmm,
We as society and as the public, we can listen and we can offer our opinions,
mm-hmm,
but at the end of the day, we are not the ones that are going to sign the papers for the documents that say we are legit scientists.
mm-hmm.
So you can pretend to be a science in your lab in your kitchen, but unless you're working in the front lines behind the scenes of developing
Exactly.
vaccines, you really don't have a say on what the particular protocols are and
Mm-hmm,
what the vaccine, just because you have an opinion,
mm-hmm,
it
mm-hmm,
doesn't warrant that your opinion is ethical for everyone.
mm-hmm,
So it's okay that you have an opinion, you're entitled to it. And it's none of my business whether you take the vaccine or not. It's just like, even if you have a cold, if you take aspirin or Tylenol, it's none of my business. It's none of anyone's business. But if you want if you want the pandemic to be behind you, the science says to social distance. The science says to wear your mask. The science says to wash your hands. The science says to stay home. You can do all of those things without taking a vaccine.
mm-hmm.
The other flip coin to this vaccine is, what's the longevity? Is it just like a flu shot where you have to get a booster every year?
Mm-hmm.
Those are still things that need to be determined. Or will it only last 90 days like they said the antibodies would, but
Mm-hmm.
last longer? Who knows? We don't know. And we have to
Mm-hmm.
give it a chance. That's all they're asking, is for a chance. Like anything in life, just having a chance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You talk about greatness, and there's a lot of things that were made, but they became something else. For
Mm-hmm.
example, Listerine became a mouthwash, and it was for something else,
Mm-hmm.
or gum was cement, rubber cement was something else, and it became something else. Post-its were for something else, and it became something else.
Mm-hmm.
So it might be something close, and I'm not comparing lives with post-it notes.
Mm-hmm.
The point is just an analogy.
Mm-hmm.
But believing in the science and the experts, there are people that fly to the moon, and we trust that they'll fly to the moon and come back.
Mm-hmm.
And the science tells us that, because there are brilliant people that are mathematicians that know. So if you're not qualified to be that person, at least have good ears to listen.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to offer an opinion, and it's okay to have a side, to pick left or right or center.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're not the qualified person, then you should just listen. That's my opinion.
Fantastic. So we're going to have a break, and we'll be back again to continue. To go to the last part of the show. And as you can see, very inspiring and very informative as well, because I think, it's important to create the awareness as well. I mean, awareness is part of greatness. So if you really want to go to, to the next level of your greatness, you have to be aware, you have to get the right information, and listen to people who went through those difficult moment, a difficult situation and difficult challenges, to be able to build on that and grow as a result. So don't go anywhere. We'll be back in few minutes and continue the show.
Headlines about the coronavirus seem to change every day. But there are things that we do know. Information about what it is and how you can protect yourself. Coronavirus looks like this under a microscope. There's a whole family of them, and they cause things like the common cold and other lung infections. The strain of coronavirus that's making news causes the COVID-19 infection. Researchers think it first passed from an animal to a person, but now it's spreading from person to person. And part of the worry is how it spreads easily compared to other viruses. It can cause mild to severe flu-like symptoms. We hear a lot about the number of people with coronavirus, and it's important to know that most people diagnosed with COVID-19 are recovering. But in some people, it can cause a much more serious illness. According to the Center for Disease Control and Prevention, the CDC, people who have the highest risk of getting really sick seem to be the elderly and people of all ages who have underlying medical conditions like asthma, diabetes, heart disease, or obesity. Hospitals are also caring for patients younger than 65 years of age who do not have prior health problems but are still getting sick with COVID-19. So the best way to protect yourself is to lower your chance of exposure. The main way the virus spreads is when people cough, sneeze, or talk. It can also remain in the air for several hours. These droplets can be breathed in by a nearby person or land on a nearby surface. An infected person also might touch his or her mouth or nose, and then touch something else, like an elevator button or shopping cart. The virus can live on surfaces for a couple of hours to several days, depending on the type of surface. Healthy people come along, touch those things, touch their faces, and then they can get infected. The good news is that you can do things to protect yourself. The CDC has many tips that can help prevent the spread of the coronavirus, and it also has a full list of underlying conditions for those at greatest risk. Do wash your hands. Lather up with soap and warm water and rub for 20 seconds, about the time it takes to sing Happy Birthday twice. Wash the fronts and backs, between your fingers, and under your nails. Do wash often, before, during, and after preparing food, before eating, after using the bathroom, after blowing your nose, coughing, or sneezing, and after you touch things lots of other people come in contact with. Remember that elevator button and that shopping cart. Do use hand sanitizer if you cannot get to a sink with soap and hot water. Make sure the sanitizer is at least 60% alcohol and rub it all over your hands and fingernails for 20 seconds. Let it dry completely. Do keep a safe distance from people who are not in your household. Staying 6 feet away from somebody is usually far enough to keep you from breathing in germs. Do use cleanser or soap and water on things that get touched a lot in your home. Items like electronics, doorknobs, light switches, and railings. Check the EPA website for a list of approved cleaners. You can carry wipes to clean surfaces in public areas, door handles, things shared in the office, and anything else lots of people touch. Do wear a cloth mask when going in public. Use it for people over the age of 2. And check the CDC website for guidelines on how to make and safely use a mask. Don't use a surgical mask or an N95. These are in short supply, and healthcare workers need these. And don't put a mask on someone who is asleep or unconscious, or anyone who can't remove the mask themselves if they have trouble breathing. Don't touch your face, especially your mouth and nose. Don't cough or sneeze into your bare hands. Instead, cough or sneeze into your elbow, or into a clean tissue that you throw out right away. Don't share food, drinks, and towels. It's an easy way to share germs. Coronavirus may feel like a big, scary unknown, but by following this advice, you can cut down your risk of getting sick.
So we are back. We are back with Maya, and as you could see from the video, I mean, there are steps that you can take, but it's never 100%. But you have to give it a chance to be able to to protect yourself. And one question that I have, going through all this process, how did it affect your family life? Because that's a key thing, a key area. Your husband, you talked a little bit about your daughter, but how is he affecting your family life? I mean, did they get COVID as well? So how is the dynamic, and what changed, in this dynamic?
Thank you for asking that question. And my family, we've become very close, even closer, post-pandemic, post-COVID, my survival. I've actually taken advantage of my family not knowing truly how much they love and support me and care for me. I realize that now. My daughter, when she went back to school when I was still in the hospital, I had just come out. Actually, it was May when I had just gotten out, and she was home for about a month and then went back to wrap up her stuff because she had come home and her things were still, her roommates had taken care of stuff. So she had to go back to Colorado. She goes to the University of Colorado to wrap her stuff up. And while she was there, she ended up getting COVID from her roommates. And they didn't tell me. They didn't tell me because they didn't want me to freak out. And I was still recovering, and I still learning to walk. I had an in-home nurse, in-home care. And her case was very mild. She only had loss of taste and loss of smell, a little bit of a fever, but she was fine. And to this day, she doesn't really have any medical like I do. So it affects everyone differently, but I definitely freaked out. My husband helps me. He holds my hands. He lifts me up to get in and out of the car, takes me to appointments, cooks for me, cleans. I really don't have to do much because he's just there to support me. He's a rock star. My friends and family have sent me food, cards, money, paid my bills, all kinds of things since I'm not working. I'm grateful for that. They've all helped. They've all stepped up. They've come to clean my house, do my laundry, it's bring food, cook a meal, drop meals off, bring me ice cream sundaes. Yeah, take me to therapy, drive me to and from. 10 months of therapy is a lot to endure for having rides 3, 4, 5 times a week. And so I'm very fortunate to have been surrounded by many people that lift me up and a community. And one of the things I have to say is that pre-COVID, I gave a lot to our community. I did a lot of things that were good in our community, and my community reached back up when I needed them, and that I'm grateful for. It just shows the strength and the champion of a community that you live in. And for me, it's been very positive. I know that a lot of people live alone, or that one spouse got COVID and one did not. My husband did not. We question how that ever happened, but it was definitely the work of God. It was a miracle that he didn't, because he was the strongest between my daughter and I. And how much can one take, the stress level of that, and being the only breadwinner in the house. But pre-COVID, I was talking about touring and maybe coming to Australia, doing a live.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Still possible at
Yes,
some
yes.
point.
So
Yeah.
we were
Still,
talking
still
about
out.
it,
Mm-hmm.
and also in Bali and just around the world doing some
Mm-hmm.
really amazing things, and that got put on hold. But I want to share a little bit about fundraising secrets,
Mm-hmm.
nonprofits. If there's any nonprofits watching, because I feel like I need to give back, and that uh, it, a lot of businesses will probably felt as if they have been put on pause or put on a
Mm-hmm.
ventilator for oxygen because they don't know if to turn left or right, or if they're going to make it, especially restaurants or mom and pop businesses and nonprofits who rely solely on donors and fundraising and events. And a lot of that got halted.
Mm-hmm.
One of the things I would suggest is building a dream team for your next move. Start reaching out to your database and seeing you could create on a dream team. This is something that I've actually started to work on. COVID Wellness Clinic, COVID LLC, for our 501c3s, building my dream team. And currently we have about 5 people that are stellar, including my pulmonologist, who's
Mm-hmm.
on the dream team, and my leadership coach.
Mm-hmm.
So I urge you to start building a dream team, so when you are ready to go, you have the right resources and the right team in place. The next thing I would ask you to do is, if you make a pie, a circle, and cut it into 4. So you have your dream team over here. And you're going to make a value ladder. Basically, it's a rung, a step, stairs. And see where you are in the value ladder that you would be able to fundraise at an effective, efficient level.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're not going to have enough audience to pull from now, given the pandemic. So we have to figure out, where can we go and what can we do to reach the needs and do your mission, serve your mission. And so sometimes we start at the bottom, where we're just bringing in volunteers, or
Mm-hmm.
we can start at the top, where we're bringing in board members. But maybe we need to start on the second rung of the ladder.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it visual. I'm a visual learner, so I always like to make little diagrams to see exactly
Mm-hmm.
where I'm going. And it's better than a business plan, because I know exactly where to put the arrow, for the
Mm-hmm.
bullseye. So I use a value ladder. The third thing is a timeline. What's
Mm-hmm.
your goal within an amount of time that you're going to use? And then the people and the necessary tools that you need to get you through, to make what you're using on your value ladder to get to that goal. Make your goal realistic and reasonable, so that it's
Mm-hmm.
scalable for the next opportunity when the world does open up. And the final thing that you should be doing right now is crafting the most sexiest, best sponsorship letter ask that you can create. What's in it for the donor, not what's in it for the organization. Because let's face it, we're at desperate times, right? We need money, our bills, our lights, our mission. If it's hungry children that we're serving, there's a real need, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how can we craft the sexiest sponsorship ask? And
Mm-hmm.
who are the companies out there that seem to have been the most profitable, that would say, I understand what you're going through, and their mission aligns with yours?
Mm-hmm.
And if that happens, then start reaching out to them and building that relationship. Relationships is what it's all about.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
There's checkbooks out there willing to be open and written checks. You just have to ask. Just like we talked about asking for help, it's the
Mm-hmm.
same thing. Ask. You've got to ask. You won't know unless you ask. And a bonus tip for a sponsorship ask is, if you're comfortable with asking for $500, make your first sponsorship ask be $1,000. Double it.
Mm-hmm.
Because I guarantee you there's money out there, and there's people out there that want to give you their money.
Mm-hmm.
So Those are the 4 tips I would leave you with Fundraising Secrets. Now, you can get the book at fundraisingsecrets.org.
Yes,
And
definitely. So
yes,
there's the book. I got the book a long time ago when you publish it. So you send it to me here in Australia. So great, really good book. So you get your copy, especially if you are in the, you have a nonprofit, and really follow the process and all the, all the everything that Maya, recommend, and it has worked for me on some of the project that I've,
beautiful.
social project that I'm doing. So really recommend for anyone listening that are in the, nonprofit space to give it a go and see how, it works for them. So really, really good.
Beautiful.
So thank you so much, Maya, for your time and for sharing, your story and being vulnerable, in front of, my audience, in front of me, and sharing freely, all those tips and inspiring us, because I've been really inspired by, by your story, and really, admire, your strength, to have been able to go through all of this and come victorious at the end of the day. I know the road is still long for you to really fully recover, but you're there. And as you said, it's really the spirit and the mindset that you have through all, all this difficult time, that really matter. And because at the end there's going to be the light. So really, really good to have you and to talk to you, because it's been a while since we've actually, had the opportunity to interact, and I'm really happy I had the opportunity to have you here today. So any, last word? I know you've shared, this all your tips and rules for raising money for nonprofit, but anything, particular that you want to share? And I think the last question that I have is that, COVID, came to teach you something. So what, do you think you're now working on as far as your legacy is concerned?
I'm working on another book, um, Miracle from Miracle from Ventilated Victory. I'm
Mm-hmm,
not 100%. I'm not 100% sure on the title yet, because as you're
mm-hmm,
writing, the book title changes lots of times, as
mm-hmm,
any author knows. But Miracle from Ventilated to Victory has been very popular. I I'm gonna take it day by day right now, because each
mm-hmm,
day is different. Some days I sleep 12 hours to 14 hours. Some days I don't sleep for 24 hours. It's
mm-hmm,
very difficult post COVID to decide what's happening to your body. Um, right now, I'm still going through therapy, and I'm going to be going through therapy for a little while longer, maybe another 6 months. And I'm still walking with a cane. And I just got signed off from voice therapy, so I've had a little win. They're my big wins now. Just like when
mm-hmm,
I showered for the first time, it was
mm-hmm,
a big win for me. Things I do now are definitely more of a win than anything else. I just value life differently and see it differently. I have a different perspective.
mm-hmm,
The thing I would leave you with today is that you are enough. You are
mm-hmm,
important. You are loved. You're kind. You are enough. Nothing is impossible or out of reach. If you want to accomplish anything, you just have to change your mind and attitude, and you can do it. It's something I tell my husband, my daughter, my friends, and anyone that comes in my realm of coaching, that they are enough.
mm-hmm.
Oftentimes we feel like we can't pour because our cup is empty. I just had this conversation with my roommate from college 20 some years ago, actually 30
Mm-hmm.
now. I'm thinking about it. I'm dating myself. Um, and she said, "What do you mean?" And I said, "You are enough. You're not pouring from a full cup." And then she realized, oh my goodness, you're right.
Mm-hmm.
and she changed her mental shift to fill her cup. So remember that you are enough and to fill your cup before you pour, because you cannot pour from an empty cup. That goes with anything, whether you're pouring love, you're pouring kindness, you're pouring heart, you're pouring science, you're pouring recovery, you're pouring support. Just remember that you pour into yourself first. Just like on an airplane, you put the oxygen on first.
Exactly.
You are enough.
You are enough. Thank you. Thank you, Maya, for this powerful statement. And I hope, the audience, whoever is gonna watch the replay, and any person watching right now but not interacting, please, understand that you are enough. And like Maya was saying, you have to pour first in your cup before you can, pour into another cup. So make sure you understand that, and you understand that you are enough. You have everything that you need. You are the leader that you're looking for. You are the person, that you're looking for to help you to go to the next level of your greatness. It starts with you. So make sure you are ready. You have, the everything that you need before you can help others. So you are enough will be, the closing statement for us today on this, amazing show, amazing conversation with Maya. And I'm going to be back next week for another episode of the Greatness Engineering Hour show. But we really, going into the weekend on a very good note from Maya. So remember, you are enough. Thank you so much, Maya. It's been a pleasure and really a blessing to have you today. And I really appreciate you taking the time to share, your experience, your knowledge, and be very open about it. So thank you, everybody. And I hope you appreciate. We have Pat. Pat is watching from South Africa, and she's saying all the best, going forward. Stay strong. She is strong, and she's gonna go through it. I can tell you. So don't worry about Maya. I think she's in a good space, even if physically it doesn't. She's not there yet. So thank you, and see you all next week. And Maya, obviously, we stay in contact, and I wish you all the best in everything that you do, and especially in your recovery. And keep winning, because I think that's what it's all about. Keep winning and keep pushing, to live your purpose. Thank you very much, and so see you next week. Bye.
Bye, everyone.